Well, hey there. It's been a while. Sorry about that. I tore up my knee and I can't really get around that much, and sitting here in front of the computer is kind of painful, but I had to get this out today. As I've told you in the past, I'm 74 years old, which means that I was about my 20s during the 1968 riots. We had riots in Detroit, Watts, New Jersey, what they called Newark riots. Those were probably the three most famous of the riots. I'm not sure. But there were more all over the country. Nothing like you're seeing today, which is almost on an international basis, the protests over the killing of that young man. The thing that I like to bring out is that it's not something you want to see. 1968, I was in the National Guard. My unit was not called into Newark, fortunately, because we weren't trained for anything other than, standing around and doing nothing back then. National Guard units were not heavily trained. I'm watching, the police departments were, because they trained us later on. And what I'm looking at right now when I look at the news is that the police departments have forgotten to train for riot control. The police officers are going out there and getting involved in hand-to-hand combat, which is not something you need to do if you're doing it right and moving the crowds out of the area. It's hasn't reached as bad a point as it did in 1968 when I lived in the city of East Orange, right next to Newark, and within 120 yards of my house there was a sniper, and you could look out the window and you could see jeeps going up and down the street with 50 caliber machine guns mounted on them. And if you know anything about construction back then, especially in Newark, it was all wooden. A lot of it was wooden construction in the slum areas and whatnot, in the poorer areas. And a 50 caliber machine gun bullet will go through that house and travel 2 or 3 blocks, going through houses. So nobody wanted to see those weapons used. Gun sales were out of control because if you were a National Guardsman and you fired your weapon, you would spend the next 6 hours filling out paperwork for every bullet you fired. You had to be responsible for it. If you came back and lost one of the bullets, and because you were running or something like that, I think you were given 2 or 3. And there were M1 rifles, there's 30 caliber rifles. They're going through buildings too. So it wasn't. Then they had guys down there with Thompson submachine guns. State police had Thompson submachine guns. Most of the time, the National Guard would call in the state police and let the state police do the shooting. Heard rumors from people that were down there and the troopers that were down there that say that a lot more people were killed than what they said. Bodies were dumped in the sewers and ended up out in the Atlantic Ocean. I don't know whether that's true or not. There's another difference between now and then. We had, they didn't all erupt at the same day, and we had effective leadership in the White House. Now, you have no effective leadership. Governors are struggling to try and diffuse a situation that's become actually international. There are protests down here, there are protests all over Europe. It's not a nice situation. The really horrible part about this is that the President of the United States relishes this. He thinks it's the greatest thing since chopped liver. That he wants to see these guys all end up dead. He's instigating riots. He's not trying to calm anything. He is not a calming voice. He is an instigator. He is a racist. If at any point in time that a president should be removed from office, this is the time he should be removed. And I'm not saying I don't want him violently removed. I mean, unless he refuses to leave office, then you can drag him out by his dick for all I care. But it should be demanded that he leave office. That should be the next level of protesting that's going on. It's unfortunate that because of 9/11 we stopped with the riot control training of police officers now, and rather we went to emergency lockdowns and to be able to respond to a shooting incident. So far as I know, there's only been a few shots fired. There's a lot of fires going on. That's typical of rioting. In Newark, when they rioted, they destroyed the local food stores and everything that were giving them credit and whatnot. And the good, decent people that were down there that weren't rioting couldn't get food, couldn't go out. The people that own stores, or the white people that own stores down there that for years had given these guys credit and were working with these people because they understood they were poor, because they had come from poor areas in their old countries and whatnot. They all left. They all took off. They all moved. They sold the property cheap, got out, moved. Opened up other businesses, other places. They were. And what happened was that there were streets with just nothing on them. Nothing. Apartment houses were being burned out. I had a therapist, a black therapist who had been a football player for the Jets, who had gone to the Super Bowl when the Jets won their Super Bowl against Baltimore. And he told me that the only way to solve the problem in Newark was to take out everybody under the age of 9 and then send tanks in. I don't believe that's really what should be done, but the situation revives that in a slum area, an area that's been a slum for years and years and years, and you see that a lot down here in Brazil and in Colombia, sections of Colombia and whatnot, that if they've been a slum for 10, 20 years, there's nothing you can do. Social workers can go in there all they want. It's not going to happen. One of my cousins was a social worker in Kentucky and in the coal mine regions and in what they call the shanty towns, and you couldn't do anything with those people. They didn't want you there. They wanted no part of you. They were doing whatever they were doing, and that's it. But now, I don't know so much what social workers and people like that can do. I think that businesses have to get together, the people have to get together and understand something. Africa can't survive without white people. South Africa could not continue to run its country without black people, without giving the black people certain rights. They couldn't deal with slavery. It didn't work in the United States. Slavery, that is. I don't know. I'm not a genius. I don't know what to do about it, but I do know that when you have a president that's standing up there saying we'll sick the dogs, the most vicious dogs we can find on them, who's going around and said things that are inflammatory, and it's being laughed at and it's being criticized by the rest of the world. And even now members of his own are stepping forward and saying there's something wrong here. At the moment, instead of going around and responding to various situations and trying to help people, what he's doing is sitting there and looking for ways that he can make himself look good. How can he he's trying to see how he can benefit from these riots. I don't know whether anybody's going to benefit from it. The people that are doing it are going to lose everything. Their homes are the ones that are being burned. Their stores are the ones that are being looted. It's never, rioting of this caliber never solves anything. Protests, peaceful protests, marches, they have accomplished things in the past. But I think we're beyond that point right now. I think the Trumpster wants a civil war, a race war, like Manson did. Charlie Manson, you remember that? That's what he did. Supposedly he did because he wanted to start a race war. A race war, I don't know who can win that. I'm going to say, everybody says, well, white people got all the guns. Yeah, but there's more black people than there are white people. I don't know. You want to see? I guess the Trumpster wants to see something like what happened when they started this country. This country's been that's an issue there. This country has been racist since the day somebody landed here. Okay, we've killed the American Indian. We We did something that we criticize every other country in the world about, and that is genocide. We tried to completely eradicate the American Indian, the Native American Indian. Right now, COVID-19 is doing a bang-up job of killing off Navajos. This country's always been racist, different degrees of it, done differently. There's no longer the big political, I don't know, what am I trying to say here? There's no longer the obvious, Ku Klux Klan marching down the streets, beating up black people, and now it's done much more subtly. They keep them from voting by moving voting lines and whatnot. It's done politically. It's done through industry. Sorry, no jobs. I don't understand what's going to happen. Like I say, I don't live there. I live in a poor country, and I see. We're being affected. The inequality down here is affected the health services. It's affecting the health of people, but it's not the same as what's going on up there. I have absolutely no insight. I can't sit here in all my years and whatnot and say to you, well, this is what should be done. Not there, not here. I'm not that kind of a commentator, a bitcher and moaner without solutions, But I admit that I don't have solutions. I don't stay, I don't know what's going to happen in the United States. If this goes on till the end of the week, I expect to see the United States military being mobilized in some form. National Guard is, again, I don't think the National Guard is trained. What happens is that because of the terrorism threat, their training goes in a different direction. It's more about protecting, and when you say protecting, that means that they shoot to kill if they're protecting a military base or a bank or whatever it is. So I don't know if they're trained in crowd control anymore. I really don't. I've been out of that for 40, 50 years. So I have no idea. I know from what I'm seeing on television, the police departments aren't that well trained in it. They're using the Southern mentality, it appears. Bring the batons and beat the crap out of anybody. I'm not sure that can work in today's world, but I have to wait and see. Anyhow, look, I'm sorry that this has to be the message that's going out today, but I just don't see anything else to say right now. It's just that it's a complete fuck up. It's a disaster. But your leaders aren't doing a good job now. You need to, especially with COVID-19 around, you need to get him out of office. You need leadership. I'm not sure if there's somebody out there that can really accomplish that. But that's what you need. The black people, the people of color, or how they'd like to be described now. I'm not trying to be politically correct, because I have friends up there that are black and whatnot, But and Latinos, I think what they need is they need a Martin Luther King type character that can bring together 1 million people or 2 million people and march peacefully, and express the point of view that it's time for this man to leave office. That they need a better government. They need a government interested in equality and not oppression. All right, listen, I gotta go. My knee's killing me. I can't sit here much longer. So anyhow, you guys all take care. I'll see you soon.